Hey guys, Miss Chenoweth here. This is a watercolor demo and we're going to explore some of the different properties of color. So the first thing you want to do after you've got your notes, your basic notes down, is you're going to take your cup, and what we're going to do is we're going to explore mixing primary colors in order to get some secondary colors, and then what of course happens when you mix all three. So use any kind of circular tool, and cup is great. And what I'm doing is drawing 3 circles, one for each primary color, and I want them to kind of go over top of each other. So kind of going like this, so that those 3 circles will kind of overlap in different areas. All right, so this is a watercolor demo, and I'm just using, this is a Prang brand. You could use lots of different brands. Oh my goodness. So sometimes this happens when you get a box of watercolors. Somebody, or maybe even you yourself, did not take care of them when putting them away. So here's just a quick lesson on cleaning it up. You can run it under the sink, but basically you're just gonna, use this top or the lid of your palette to mix your colors. So it's really important that this is nice and clean and fresh when you get started. Sometimes I can actually use this. This isn't like horrible, but then I'm just going to take my paper towel and just kind of rinse it out, wipe it dry, and then pretty much it's nice and clean. Same thing, what I like to do is just called lifting out. What looks like happened here is that this paint box was put away and tipped and tilted on its side. So you can see I've got some orange inside of the yellow. So I definitely want to get some of that cleaned out, especially if I'm going to, work with primary colors for this. So what I'm doing is just getting my brush wet, get that nice and wet, and then just kind of lifting it out, rinse the brush in my cup. I'm not really going to use brown. I'll go ahead and clean it out anyway, but the rest of the colors look pretty clean. There's a little bit of crud in the orange, but I'll just dip from the center, and that won't be such a problem. All right, so watercolor is a really fun medium. It's a little bit difficult to work with. I'm just using regular drawing paper for this today, but if I was going to do a really nice fine painting, I definitely would invest in some watercolor paper. All right. All right, so for this demo, you're just experimenting with color, and you want to try to get your paint dipped in and make sure that your paints are nice and moist. And I want to go straight from the yellow and try to get as much yellow as possible. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, and you can see that's a very light yellow on my paper. So I want to try to get a really strong, intense color. The other thing you can do is just kind of like put some water down in that space. So I'm going to go like this, but still that color is so light. I really want to get more paint, so I'm really just going to like keep delving away in here, try to get as intense of a yellow as I can. All right. Okay, it's looking a little brighter, looks better. That's the other great thing about watercolor paper. Your color will actually look brighter on real watercolor paper. There's also cold press or hot press paper that you can get. Cold press is nice and forgiving, and it allows you to lift out color, whereas hot press paper, it actually holds your color more intensely. So just a couple notes about watercolor paper. All right, so that looks pretty good. And as you can see, it's a very transparent medium. I can see all of my color, all of my pencil marks underneath. So that's also something to keep in mind, is that you want to make sure that you can erase all of your pencil lines if you're doing a really nice watercolor painting. All right, so this time I'm just trying to get as much intense red. Remember, for this demo, we're just using red, yellow, and blue, your primary colors. All right, so the other thing I want to do is I don't want to touch that yellow right now. And you can see I don't have a good intense red. It looks kind of pink right now. All right, so I'm going to come back and again just try to make this a really, really bright red. All right, too much water made it really kind of like that. All right, as you can see, it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And now I'm actually going to have it sort of mix with, and I'm going to go slow. I'm not going to go too close to that line right there. All right, so the yellow is kind of dry already. All right, so I'm just going to take a little bit of red and mix it over top. And you can see it does look slightly orange. Not sure how well the video shows the color. And then next I'm going to go to blue. All right, and same thing here. I want to get a pretty intense blue color. Had to make sure I rinsed my brush out really, really well. And just practicing some nice brush control. Trying not to go outside the lines there, because sometimes, you know, brush control is something that's really important as we're painting whatever it is, so that you like your work. I'm just using a regular watercolor brush. All right, now I'm gonna actually add a little bit more water to this blue because I still want to be able to see the yellow underneath of it, so that you can kind of see what happens when you mix the two colors together. If I went super intense with the blue, then it would just kind of cover everything up. All right, now let's see what happens when I mix it with the red. And then you can just kind of see those color changes. All right, and then lastly, what happens if I mix it in here with these, the yellow and the blue and the red? And it kind of neutralizes everything out. All right, and as it's starting to dry, it's looking a little bit more brown. All right, so the other thing you're going to do is we're going to play around with getting a color to go from light to dark, and then also we're going to play around with this color mixing of a complement. All right, so hue is the different colors. So we have our primary, sorry, I'm backtracking here. So primaries are, you know, yellow, red, and blue. And then when you mix the two primaries together, then you'll get your secondary colors. Okay, secondary, secondary. And then when all three kind of mix together, you get a neutral color. All right, so they all kind of neutralize each other when they're all go together. That's kind of like that little center piece in there is that neutral color. Neutral colors are colors like brown and gray, for example. All right, so back here, here's the next step of what you're going to do. So I'm going to do about a 4-inch rectangle here, and then another 4-inch rectangle here. And I'm just going to play around with some color mixing. And the other property of color that we haven't experimented with yet is value. So for this one, it's going to be a value study, okay, which means lightness or darkness. I'm going to try to make this very light and then gradually get darker down here. And then with this one, we're going to do a complementary. And with the complementary color scheme, you'll see the intensity. So we're going to play around with the intensity of the color for this one. Intensity. There we go. All right, so pick a color, any color. For this demo, I'm going to use red. And what I want to do here is I'm going to get the color very, very dark as I can. And I'm just going to start here with as dark as I can, get that color. And then I'm gradually just going to kind of paint here, and I'm hoping that some of the pigment is going to go out of it as I go here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this white, because with watercolor you don't mix color with white, you just kind of mix it with the paper, and since it's transparent, you'll gradually see the color get lighter and lighter and lighter. All right. So for here, I'm not even going to add any pigment whatsoever. I'm just going to leave it very light. Okay, just plain straight water. And then let's see if I can't get it, just keep it as a nice gradual blend. And as you can see, what you want to do is work watercolor pretty wet if you want transitions to happen gradually. And the color just bleeds so beautifully together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a darker color to the red. And what I like to do sometimes is I'll use sort of like a blue or maybe even a purple. Purple is very dark. It's a dark color. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of, let's see, I'm just going to put another like warm color in there just to kind of neutralize it, and it's going to make it look sort of blackish, brownish. All right, so this would be called a tint when it's white, and then a shade is when it has a dark color in it. All right, so now I'm making that red really dark. And then I want to kind of gradually sort of blend this together. I'm just going to mix more red in there just to get it darker. And then see if I can't get some more of this darkness in here. All right, and then just to gradually blend it, I'm just sort of wetting my brush, getting it clean and free of the water, and I'm just going to sort of blend it out. All right, so this may take some time. You may not like your initial result, and that's fine, but just practice it again. If it doesn't work out so nice the first time, try it again. All right, so now I'm going to just take, I'm going to get my orange cleaned up. So now we're going to take two complementary colors. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do purple, all right, because purple is kind of cool. We'll use yellow and purple. They're two colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. All right, so like here you can see yellow and purple. If we did blue, orange, red, green. All right, so I'm just going to start off with this really intense yellow, trying to make it as intense as I can. And I want to make it go for half of this. All right, so half of this rectangle is going to be yellow. And really trying to get that color intensity. And then the other half is going to be purple or violet, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to start really dark here. All right, now here's the fun part. What happens when the two mix together? And I'm glad that this is still nice and wet, but you can kind of see it's starting to turn like this really cool brown color. Okay, so I'm going to force a little more mixture in there. Going back to my palette, get a little more yellow. And then I'm going to just try to control it so it's starting to like seep and blend. So I'm just going to try to pull it back and catch it before it goes too far. And watercolor is just a super fun medium for that. It likes to go where it wants to go, and you just have to learn how to control it a little bit with your brush. All right, so what I've done here is I've got this really intense color, this really intense color, and in the middle, they kind of canceled each other out and they dulled each other. All right, so this has been your watercolor demo. I hope you will find some fun working with it.